Hi, I'm Rick Baker. I'm the founder and executive director of the Becky Baker Foundation, and a lot of people have asked, what is the Becky Baker Foundation and who is or was Becky Baker? So I'm here today to give you a little background on the foundation, who we are, what we do, and of course, who is our namesake, who is Becky Baker. To give you some background on Becky, let's go back to December the 17th of 2013. And Becky, who was my wife at the time, and we were shopping at Costco. We love Costco. As we were walking through Costco, she stubbed her toe on the grocery cart and fell to the ground, withering in pain. I didn't know what the problem was. All she did was stub her toe. She said I had to take her to the emergency room. And I thought, Becky, all you did was stub your toe. She said, no, I need to go to emergency. So we went to Wake Forest Baptist Hospital in Winston-Salem. I took her to the emergency room. I sat in the waiting room for a couple of hours while she was back there talking to the doctors to find out what was wrong with her back. Soon, a doctor comes out who happened to be an oncologist. And she said, Rick, I'm sorry to tell you, but your wife has stage 4 metastatic ER-positive breast cancer. She has 3 months to live, so please get your affairs in order. And I said, doctor, all she did was stub her toe. She said, no, Rick, I'm sorry. She's had breast cancer for a year or so. She's just hidden it from everyone. So Becky was panicked because she knew that she had breast cancer. She actually found a lump the size of a BB in her left breast about a year earlier. She did nothing about it. It grew, metastasized, where she had compression fractures in her vertebra, fractured ribs, fractured sternum. Her bones had become like eggshells from the little tiny tumor that started in her left breast and grew to take over her whole body. Hence the 3-month diagnosis. I told Becky, I said, look, Becky, I know you're not going to die in 3 months. We're all going to die one day, but you're not going to die in 3 months. She said, well, you're just my husband. You don't know anything about this. You don't even know what breast cancer is. The doctor says I'm going to die, so I'm going to die. I said, no, you're not. So every day for the next 90 days, I told Becky, you're not going to die today. Finally, she began to believe me. And as 90 days passed, she was still here. I remember 3 months, and she said, you know, today's the day I was supposed to be dead, and I'm still here. I said, yes, you are. So what are we going to do going forward? She said, well, I'm going to beat this, even though the odds of beating the diagnosis that she had is less than 1%. It's fatal for just about everybody. But she said, I'm going to beat it now. She became positive. We started a website called Laugh to Live, an acronym, LAFF, the number 2, live.org. Stands for lifestyle, attitude, food, and faith. Lifestyle. She changed her lifestyle completely. She stopped drinking Diet Coke. She said, I'm not going to die today. I'm going to live as healthy as I possibly can. Secondly, attitude. She said, I'm going to change my attitude to where today is not the day I die when I wake up. And I'm going to beat this stage 4 metastatic breast cancer diagnosis. Then there was food. We went to a complete organic diet. I began to eat things that I didn't know were edible because I wanted to go along her side and support her. So I'm a Taco Bell guy. It was hard for me, but I went ahead and I did it, and we're not eating tree bark, but it tasted like that. So she did that. And the last F in Laugh to Live, faith. We had tens of thousands of people around the world praying for Becky. So as time went on, and she began feeling better and better, about 2 years into this diagnosis, or 21 months past the 3 months she was given to live, we thought she was healed. I really thought she was healed. There were no signs. When we went back to the oncologist and she had her nuke scan, the oncologist said, you know, I don't use the word that your breast cancer is healed. I never use that. But if I did, I would say it is, because I don't find it any longer. So we were excited. We thought Becky has beaten something that 99% of the people never beat. But it was not to be. Soon after, she began feeling not so good, and then worse and worse. And on Easter Sunday morning of 2017 at 4:58 a.m., Becky passed away. I was holding her hand. She was watching me. She smiled, and she was gone from this planet. So back up 2 weeks before she passed away, and we were sitting one day having a conversation. She knew that her time on this planet was limited. She said, you know, Rick, the only thing I'm really sad about is that no one's ever going to remember my name. And I thought that was so odd, because Becky didn't really like people. She loves dogs. She gave me a sweatshirt that says, all I care about are my dogs and maybe like 3 people. She loved dogs. So for her to say that she was concerned about what people would think in remembering her name really surprised me. I think when we get to the end of our lives, we all wonder, did I make a difference? Did I do anything on this planet that people will remember me by? And Becky was there. I promised then, I said, Becky, you know what? I promise you, no one will ever forget your name. That's a promise. After she passed away a couple of weeks toward the end of April of 2017, I took the $1 million life insurance check that I got from her death, and I put it in an account, and I started the Becky Baker Foundation in her name. And I put $1 million in that account to pay for 5,000 free mammograms. See, if Becky had had her mammogram, she most likely would be here today. When that tumor was the size of a BB and she did nothing about it, that's what took her life. 60% of the women today, we're told, in the United States, never have a mammogram, have never had a mammogram. 40% have never been to a gynecologist. So it's an epidemic, and Becky was one of the casualties of that. So I put the $1 million in her account. I established the Becky Baker Foundation to pay for 5,000 free mammograms. My thought now then is, what am I going to do? How do I launch a foundation? I've never done that. My background is talk radio, and I've written some books and newspapers. I don't know anything about a foundation. I thought, well, I'm going to throw up a simple website that says Becky Baker Foundation, free mammograms, free thermograms. All you have to do is click here to register, and we'll schedule you somewhere in the country, wherever you live, for your free screening. Please don't do what Becky did and lose and die. So I put the website up. Next, I took my car, a race car that NASCAR helped build, a GTR 215 mile an hour car, and I had them wrap it with Becky Baker Foundation wrap all over it. And I printed up a number of pens, about 80,000, that said Becky Baker Foundation, free mammograms, free thermograms, shirts like the one I'm wearing, hats that said Becky Baker. I've given away hundreds of sleeves of golf balls, tens of thousands of tees. I got in the car with all of this product, and I started driving around the country. And everywhere that I stopped, I'd take a handful of pens into a gas station, I'd put them on the counter, I'd hand them a brochure behind the counter, and they'd hold up the brochure with the pen, and I'd take their picture. And I would say, please get your mammogram or your thermogram. Go get your screening. If you can't afford it, go to BeckyBakerFoundation.org, and my foundation will pay for it. I drove about 40,000 miles through 37 states in a year and a half in that car. Everywhere I went, dropping off shirts and pens and hats, brochures. And pretty soon, people started hitting the website. I remember the very first one I got, a hit that said, I need a mammogram. I'm in Kansas City, Missouri. Can you pay for it? And I said, yes. So to follow the HIPAA laws, I would make sure that once they contacted me for the free screening, I then would contact a breast center in the town in which they lived. I would tell the breast center about this patient who wants a screening, and then they would contact them. I punch completely out of the picture. All I do is pay for it. I want to follow all the HIPAA laws. I don't want to know, nor do I legally have a right to know their medical condition. So 1 became 2, became 10, became 100. And in the last almost 3 years, we've given away 2,100 mammograms and thermograms throughout the United States. Almost every state in the country, someone has requested a mammogram. So my promise to Becky, I was honoring. I said, Becky, I promise you, no one will ever forget your name. So what's happened since then? Well, the foundation, when I started, it was obviously just a nonprofit corporation that I launched myself. There was no tax implications at all because it was my money, I was funding it. But it became so big that in December of last year, we became 501c3, IRS, nonprofit charity. All tax donations are now tax deductible, all donations are. And so we've gone to that next level, which I think Becky would want. I want to get to the point where we give away 5,000 mammograms or thermograms every single year. We wanted originally to double that to where by the end of this decade, we could maybe be providing about 1 million screenings per year. If we could do that, then we've become the largest foundation in the country, and we're actually doing what I want to do, and that is prevent breast cancer. The best way to beat breast cancer is to prevent it. The best way to beat breast cancer is to prevent it. We all hear every October breast cancer awareness. Hundreds of millions of dollars are donated through all these larger breast cancer foundations in October for breast cancer awareness. And hey, I've got a news flash. Everybody's already aware. We already know about breast cancer. Where does that money go? We don't really know. What we want to do at the Becky Baker Foundation is we want to prevent breast cancer. We want to get back to the Laugh to Live model: lifestyle, attitude, food, and faith. When we provide a free mammogram or thermogram to someone who contacts us because they can't afford it, we don't want to just provide a screening and then have them come back every year. That doesn't accomplish anything. We want them to leave after that screening, going to our website with Barb Houston, Dr. Barb Houston, who is our president and director of education, to go through what prevention really means in your body. This is the only body we've got on this planet, right here. And the best way to beat breast cancer, remember, is to prevent it. It's not always preventable. Yes, I understand that. But it is at times preventable if we're aware of it. So we try to teach women the importance of their lifestyle, their attitude, the food that they eat, the faith that they possess, whatever it is. Because again, this is the only body that we have. So the Becky Baker Foundation is becoming much more than just giving away free mammograms or free thermograms. We want to be the driving force of the United States and beyond of putting out front and center to everyone breast cancer prevention. Let's prevent it. Let's stop talking so much about breast cancer awareness, and let's spend some time preventing breast cancer, because that's the only way to beat it. Everybody watching right now, you all know somebody, family, friend, worker, who's had breast cancer, has it now, has died from it. And here's the reason why. In 1940, 1 in 5,000 women, that's 1 in 5,000 women in the United States were diagnosed with breast cancer. 1 in 5,000. That's 1940. What about last year? Last year, it's 1 in 7. So this has become an epidemic in this country. And as I said, you know someone who has it, has had it, has died from it. So let's do our level best to prevent this. Not spend so much time on awareness, because we're already aware. Let's prevent it. So I wanted you to know about the Becky Baker Foundation. I wanted you to know who she is, why we do what we do. We have the Platinum Seal of Transparency from GuideStar. Very few foundations have that. In fact, there are very few breast cancer foundations in the United States who have that. We got it right away. We're very transparent. My salary as executive director is $1 a year. Not $1 million, just $1. 96 cents of every dollar that's donated to the Becky Baker Foundation goes toward a screening. We're keeping our cost as low as we possibly can. Again, we're honoring my word to Becky. I promise you, Becky, no one's ever going to forget your name. We could use your help, your financial help, obviously. We became 501c3 last December, and then January we were starting to launch looking for donations. And then, of course, the world got weird and changed, and we have COVID everywhere now. So we really haven't gone much further from January, but we're ramping it up now, because you know what? While there were stay-at-home orders all over the country, breast cancer did not have a stay-at-home order. While we were stuck at home, breast cancer was continuing to grow. That small tumor that woman has in her breast didn't stop because she had a stay-at-home order. It continues. And so we've lost ground in the last 4 or 5 months, because a lot of the breast centers and the thermography centers were closed. And then a number of women, and even some men, would not go in for this screening for fear of contracting COVID-19. So we've lost ground. And now we're just starting to ramp it up. We're taking the car, the GTR, around the country again on the Race for Prevention tour. If you look at the website, you can see pictures of the car, and you can see where it's been. That's kind of become the head turner for the foundation. People see that, they take pictures, and when they do that, they go, oh, I need to get a mammogram or a thermogram. That's our purpose, and that's our only purpose. Nobody makes any money doing this. We're doing this to honor Becky, and we're doing this to save as many women as we possibly can. One story in closing, and then I'm done. I ran full-page ads around the country when I was traveling on the Race for Prevention tour, passing out pens and brochures. I ran full-page ads in the Chicago Tribune, LA Times, a number of papers that were basically Becky's story, which is what I've just shared with you here today. At the bottom of the ad, I put my cell phone number, just in case somebody wanted to call me, because so many women are afraid to get a screening. They're just scared to death. So a lot of calls I would have. And I would say, please talk to your husband, your boyfriend, your father, your brother, and help them encourage you and have them go with you. But please get your screening. Don't do what Becky did. So I have a phone call late at night on my cell phone. I'm in North Carolina, and the lady on the other end says, is this Rick Baker? And I said, yes. And she said, well, my name is so-and-so. And I said, oh, you have a very famous name. And she said, well, that's who I am, but I'll only talk to you if you promise you'll never give out my name. And I said, okay, I promise. She said, I was reading your ad today as I was having coffee in Ventura, California here, and I saw this full-page ad in the LA Times. And it was Becky's story, and I read it and I cried. And she said, I don't cry very often unless I have to on camera, but I didn't cry. I cried for real. And my background, she said, is there's no breast cancer in my family. I've never been sick. I work out 5 days a week. You've seen me on the big screen, how I look. Why would I be concerned about breast cancer, she thought. But she said, it sounded to me, it felt to me like Becky was telling me to go get a mammogram. So I took the full-page ad out of the paper, put it in my purse. I was getting ready to go to Africa for a shoot. And as the week went on, this nagging voice saying, go get a mammogram, schedule a mammogram. She said, so you know what, Rick, I did. I went and I got a mammogram, and something was wrong. And she said, well, nothing can be wrong. You have to do this again. I'm in perfect health. I feel perfect. I feel great. There's no breast cancer in my family. How can something be wrong? They said, well, something's wrong and we have to do further testing. They did that, and she said, Rick, long story short is this. Had I not gone in when I did, they told me I probably would have been dead in about 6 months because I had a very aggressive form of breast cancer that I had no idea I had. Had I gone to Africa, it might have been the end of my life. She said, so the only reason I'm telling you this, Rick, is so that the next time you talk to Becky, you can tell her, Becky, thank you for saving my life. Those are the kinds of stories that we have, true stories from women and some men all over the country because of Becky. In her passing, she has saved so many women in her passing. Now, she doesn't care what we're doing right now. She's not here. She's having a great time, the right hand of God, and no more pain. And yet, here we are, still stuck on this planet with this evil disease called breast cancer. My goal, the staff here at the Becky Baker Foundation, our only goal is to prevent breast cancer in your body. So please, whether you can give or not, from this moment on, please commit to yourself to preventing breast cancer, whatever that means in your life. Thanks for listening. Thanks for taking the time. And please do one thing for me in closing. Go to BeckyBakerFoundation.org. That's our website, BeckyBakerFoundation.org, and click on the tab up at the top that says Becky's Story. Becky's Story. Please read Becky's story. That's why we do what we do. Thank you, and God bless.